Hello and welcome to our next monthly Zoom. The topic is art of seeing, and I mean seeing as an artist would see things. I will show images and ask also you to analyze that. So please think of maybe keeping your microphone. If I hear any special background sounds, I'll just switch off someone of you who would be producing these sounds, so it's okay. And now I begin sharing my screen with the image which I used as a title image. And in this case, I wanted to think that these two images were created by different people. One of them was definitely guided by his or her eyes, the image on our left. And so the image on our left is someone who was thinking of what we see and produced something for our seeing. And the one who produced the image on the right, well, I'll guess we can discuss this later at the end. What you think was this person was guided by or with, what were the reasons for producing this concrete particular type of icon. And I will begin with some, I don't know, very simple and stupid things like here, which I took another week ago, poppies flower, and just to show photographs showing the color. So how colors are connected to each other, how this red works with green. Looks okay. So it's not good, it's not bad, it's just normal, it's acceptable. Nothing really specific. Well, maybe a little more specific than, maybe it's nice because of sunshine, but anyway, it's normal. It's what our eyes used to see in nature. And another one, maybe, I don't know, 3 weeks ago, where he had this near our yard. That's a beautiful thing. Again, nothing really specific. We see this in nature every year, not really a piece of art. And moving forward, we start seeing images created by humans and images created by nature together. Yes, the flowers and some environment. And yet, as humans, we're just thinking of utilitarian beauty of this construction. It's acceptable. It's just something we're invited in. We feel welcomed. We feel normal to be in an environment like that. And I have taken this picture in the yard of an artist. And of course, we see that was produced by some artist, because how this blue color of the table would be not a coincidence, but a really specific connection with the color of the flowers. I would say just work of art already, per se. And here I'm showing you an image which was produced by an artist. And how can I guess this? Well, I can guess this because I see special forms and shapes, even though they were created with fabric. So this image was produced by Zinon. She's wife of our local friend David Sulakauri. And she is not just an art critic and art historian writing books and participating in conferences, but for herself, she produces these pieces, and they can be huge, like 2 meters, which is 5 feet large, or they can be tall. And in this piece, in this image, I can think we may begin discussing what is artwork, what is a piece produced by an artist. Well, here is herself near one of her images. And I just wanted, maybe if you could tell me, how can we say this is work of an artist and not someone who is not an artist? So any thoughts, any proposals, how can that be defined? If it's an artist or not, and how make a decision?
A level of skill.
How do you decide whether it's a skill or not? Because this can be done by computer, which has stitched a lot of pieces of fabric.
May I?
Sure.
I see work of thinking
Okay.
behind this picture, because the person who was working on it recognized which color combines with another color, and this is a process. I see the process here, not result. I see the process. And also I like imperfect cutted pieces, because they are slightly not perfect. They're not absolutely symmetrical. They are not like plastic one, like you can do any shape and it will be perfect shape. No, even this roundish pomegranates, they are not perfectly circular. That's what I say. I think.
Okay. Thank you, Ali. Yes, I totally agree with you. So you're speaking about process, and we see the process produced by human who didn't try to be perfect, but to let things interact. Okay, wonderful. Any thoughts, Shari? No?
Yeah, like the interaction between the values and then the colors that the artist chose.
Okay, great. Great. Thank you. Any more thoughts? Anybody who has switched the camera off, but maybe has a voice to speak? I don't know, willing? Well, we can move forward. Well, yes, I'm with you about that. And I just wanted to mention that that's what we say. We say from point of view of contemporary art, which this thing is, yes, which function as a piece of art. And if we look at things like this, which were not meant to be hanging in a gallery, but which were meant for daily use in church, well, maybe not yet daily, like once a year, but yet, we see again the color combination, the shapes, the different parts, which our eyes can accept. They are not much naturalistic. They don't look like the flowers we've just seen. And they look made by human, and yet our eyes enjoy seeing them and feel, as Allah would have said, the process behind this thing and natural unevenness and little inaccuracy, demonstrating this as a piece of human production. And the same we can see about this, like colors are set by someone to be together, because this green feels well near this blue, this red stays well near this yellow. So we can say probably this artist wasn't really following some very, I don't know, good academical example. Maybe this artist didn't even have some academical education, but yet our eyes don't worry looking at this image. They don't feel tortured. They feel normal. They feel okay because of the way things are set together here. And now I will show you one in the process. I should say that it's in the process, but yet I have to show it. And somehow I am attracted to bright colors, and I all the time want to use bright colors in my works. Well, sometimes it happens like it's here. It's too much. It's too strong. I would say, it's torturing the beholder's eyes. So this is why I can say the person who produced this, or who would suggest this as a final result, is probably not thinking as an artist should think, because of the effect, which is not good for the vision of this person who's looking at it. And then I muted it down, and then it feels better because it's more harmonious, it's more together, it's more working. with our vision, how we used to perceive the things. So these are two versions together, and you see how one of them is probably bright and how to say, appealing a lot to us. But yet the other one, the second one, is more professionally done from point of view of visual communication. Okay, this is what I'm trying to say. The artist is someone who establishes professional visual communication, and you understand what he or she is trying to tell you, because that's a dialogue, that's the system of relationship which is open to all. It's a talk, it's a speech. And I'll be showing you several images of John the Baptist, just to discuss together specific, I would say, tools, specific visual instruments the artist used to engage with us, to talk to the beholder visually. Like, I don't know, maybe the movement of this arm is accurate with the movement of these folds on his belt. Yes, and the movement of the hand is kind of reflecting the movement of these folds. Or, for example, how this knee is reflected in the movement of the scroll below. Yes, the artist is trying to combine different things together and is trying to make them fit each other, work well with each other. And that's how we understand, yes, that's an artist who is trying to talk to us. Or in this case, I never saw this icon before. I just occasionally found this particular image. And I would say, well, maybe if you imagine someone doing or copying this image today, you will see these highlights, very, very bright, just, I don't know, almost white, on flat surface of dark color. And this artist managed somehow to show the volume even with very simplistic highlights. So we see it's a work done by someone who is talking to us and who cares us to understand what he or she means. And in this case, I mostly see this icon on the top part where we see the body and the head, because probably those who want to reproduce it usually feel not comfortable about the legs. And yet I think, even though we may probably not like that, that was a decision of someone who produced it consciously, on purpose. He made or she made these legs so thin and narrow. I don't know why, but somehow that was a decision. Or in this particular case, I would say he has a huge head on very narrow shoulders. Yes, if you start trying to analyze, very little arm, very teeny tiny hand, and a huge head. And yet, when this person is talking to us, we don't worry about that. If this image starts communicating with us, we are not taken by these problems because they are not problems. He or she probably wanted these distortions to get in more intimacy of this particular communication. Like, look how strange is everything. So you probably will pay more attention to the whole story if the story will sound specific to you, unusual and odd. If everything sounds documentary, it's just boring, you will not listen. But if things are specific, you probably will listen more. Or in this one, I see lots and lots of details, and yet most details are formal, and yet the face is not. So the face is inviting for communication and showing how it is targeted to have this dialogue. So maybe the wings and other details are too perfect, and yet there is still a face where our eyes will bounce back to it. We'll come back and try to see what it is. Or in this case, we see some provincial fresco, and this guy, or the artist, was not probably much educated in art, but we still may notice lots of parts where we feel it as a communication. Look how the whole body, hands and legs participate in the posture. So how the whole our impression is tied up with every part of this figure. So we feel all of that. We don't perceive one part separate from another. No, no. For him, it's one story, and we see this story. And in this case, I decided not to cut it off the environment because everything is perfect. Well, I mean, perfect. There's so much information I'm given and so much perfectness of execution, whilst yet there is not much dialogue with me as with the beholder, as someone who is looking at it. Because when I'm trying to understand why would this knee be blue and this garment is green, and what connection does this green have with this blue, for example, or why this part of the beard would be lighter than that part of the beard. So there are many, many things from which we understand, we feel that this artist was mainly executing certain number of steps. It was a procedure this artist wanted to go through, which supposedly could guarantee a good result, or at least could guarantee the image to be sold to the client. And I guess the client was happy, because many contemporary clients are happy when we see so much decoration, so much gold, and so many skills applied on the image. So we see lots and lots more skills than in a previous one. And yet, if we compare them, the one in this countryside church is talking to us, even though he's looking somewhere else, but he is all in front of us. He is present at this moment. And that one is staying somewhere, supposed to be with us, but he is not, because of the way the artist produced it. We'll see some other images which I hope may illustrate better my thinking process. Like this one has lots of details as well. Yes, yes, lots of shadows and highlights and many different specific, very strange, very special lines and shadows. And yet the main part is the face. It's distorted, it's strange, the eyes are weird, and yet it's magnetic. It attracts our view. It wants us to look at him, to be with him in our process of contemplation. We are willing to stay focused on him because the artist who produced it really meant all these details. So he's telling us a story where he has lots of details, but every detail has its space, has its place, and he or she just can't avoid putting all of that. It's such a character of this artist, such a charisma, that he wants to make this story so beautiful, can't avoid. And this guy who produced the contemporary version, well, I guess he probably should, or she probably had a different model. And yet this question is like, what kind of message you're delivering? What kind of attention or energy you're delivering through your message? Because with all the complexity on the image of the left, we still feel it was personal decision to apply this highlight, this shadow, this finger to be bent like that, etc. And these eyes, strange, but personal. And with the guy who produced the image on mosaic on the right, we mainly see the simplicity of production and the very expression of the face of the person who is depicted is not really showing any kind of communication. So it's one of the equal parts of the image. There is one part showing his knees, another part showing his, I don't know, special fur coat, but there is no particular, how you call it, hierarchy. What we should look first, what we should look second. its amount of work. And honestly, like we say in Russian, placing your hand on your heart, will you swear you like this, or you will swear you like that one? I will not, because this green seems not to be made or chosen for me. This gray does not seem to be selected for the viewers. Looks like they were just some average colors which were given to this artist and said, go for it. And what kind of artist is this if he's torturing the viewer? And well, several more images like this, quite classical, yet with all the damages which were done to this image, we still feel how well did this artist manage to maintain contact between the greenish color of the garment and the whitish gray of the fur on the edge, how they all together are tied up wonderfully, harmoniously, and many other words to the skin tone. Just a wonderful piece of art. And how about this one? Now I want just maybe some your opinion to think whether you will say it was made by an artist, or you say it was made by someone who was just performing certain activity. And please give a support to your speech. Say some words, why would you consider it this way or that way? Any thoughts, maybe? Please. Like one, okay, it is not an artist because, or it is an artist because. So, any thoughts? It's again, it's not about personal, this, I don't know, decision to paint this icon. It's, we are learning, okay? We're trying to understand what's good and bad for us. So that's why it's not criticizing, it's analyzing. Sorry, all right. Any words from yourself? Some words.
I think it was created by an
Jerzy,
artist.
yes.
One of the reasons why is the variation in values that give a kind of focus to the face. Both actually, both faces. Actually, you have these dark values that surround the hand and the bowl, and then you have, you know, the dark of the hair and stuff around the face of John the Baptist. That it's again, it's not all big bright colors. There's a variation in values there. So that makes me think that it is done by an artist.
Great, yes, I'm with you. Any more thoughts? Anita, you're switching on your microphone, yes? Not yet. Well, maybe somebody else. Allah, you're muted.
Yeah. In one of our discussion, we were talking about that iconography. It is like poetry and music. Like we compare with this kind of art. So like if compare with the music is not only a lot of different sounds, but also some muted parts between them. And I see, so when I start to think about this, when I look at different masterpieces and icons, I start to see this music. So not only very busy parts of the image, but also some muted parts and how they are balanced with each other. So I see this in this picture. That's why I can say that this is not like mass product, something like this. But I see that it is the person behind this who was thinking about, I need to put a lot of busy lines in this area. So beside this, it should be more muted. Why? Because
okay, so this
I
is an
understand.
artist.
Yeah.
You vote for an artist.
Yes.
Okay, any more thoughts? Kelly? Steven? Whether it's an artist or not. who produced this? Okay, nobody wants to talk. Well, yes, I'm with you. And as any creative work, we can say, if that were you to make this job, to produce this image, I would have done like this part differently. And maybe technically, I would say I probably would have made the blue garment slightly lighter just to give more diversity. But from the other hand, yet again, it's a communication. It's real visual dialogue with someone who is looking at it. So it's made not to perform, but just to really create a spot for prayer, spot for communication. And I will show you several more, like this one, or no, I rather compare this one with the previous one. And again, it's not we are saying this one is better than that. We are trying to analyze what instruments, what tools did this artist or that artist use to achieve the result he or she wanted. And I think we can say the one on the left is more classical because of proportions, because of different things. But the one on the right is probably more expressive, even with this very old, very strange shoulder, with very long neck, and yet very thin and narrow hand and arm. I would say the one on the right is more special, more specific, because it was made by an artist. And it's not something we criticize him or her for that, for this strange shoulder, because this strange shoulder is the part of the story. So it was necessarily produced in that way to be a complete thing, for its wholeness. But if we compare the model with what contemporary artists make out of it, we will always see this problem which we have discussed before, that every part is produced separately. Each of the details is made as a perfect object in se, like a spare part for a car. You just produce it according to certain requirements of your own, but when you mount them all together, they don't work, because actually that was not conceived as a work of an artist. It was not conceived as a work of someone who is communicating visually. It's just the idea to produce an icon. What is an icon? It's a combination of abstractive details which look in a certain way. That's it. So the magic of art, the communication we see in the model is lost, not because someone tried to be creative. It's not a problem of creativity, but because it's not a visual communication. It's just making your version without thinking how this version can be put together, how it works. And I will be showing you some of my own pictures just because I keep struggling with this as myself. So I'm making these lectures because these are problems which bother me. And very often it happens that in the beginning, you like what you're producing, like the eyes are looking at you, everything's fine. But at a certain point, you stop liking it. And I was trying to catch up the moment when I stopped liking it. So I was taking many, many pictures. And okay, this one seems to be communicating with me. And a little further, and this still seems to be communicating. Well, I don't say it's all very proved from a, I don't know, anatomical point of view, but it's communicating. And somehow I didn't like it. I just wanted to make a new version and moved forward and like tried to make it more tilted, more turned, more special. At that point, still, I would say it's working. It's looking at me. It means what it says. Yes, I feel that every word in this particular short story means what it's supposed to mean. But then I moved forward, and it very often happens to me that I just forget seeing. I work, but I don't see. And I just apply colors. and they become layers of paint, but they don't mean so much as they used to mean. So I could have added tiny little bit of something here and stop. It would remain a good piece with full communication. But I just stopped seeing and I began applying, and it stopped working somehow. I'll show you another one. Like here, in the very beginning, you just established like the eyes, the lips, not much. And yet this very first one on the left is functioning. It's talking to me visually, and it has certain expression and even emotional, I don't know, connection with the viewer. And the one on the right has lots and lots of details applied on top of it, but the communication is lost. So intermediacy, the connection is no more here. And not only it happens to me, but to many people, even those very professional guys. Like, for example, we see this as a model, which we may discuss, well, this red probably is too bright, but it's bright on purpose because we want to attract attention to Christ and other things. But overall, this thing seems to be balanced. Yes, the whole image is the whole story. But when we see things like that, you think like, come on, what are you doing, man or woman, torturing the viewers, the beholders, the people who came here to pray with these colors? Are you nuts? Do you have a possibility to choose something? And this is mosaic. Yeah? This is not something you pay 2 pennies for. It's thousands of dollars. And again, not a problem of money, but problem, it's not something you've done in one day. Yeah, it's someone who really worked for, I can even say, several months to produce this thing and to use these terrifying colors somewhere in church where people will be looking at it for hours. Like, what is happening to you? It does have abstracted forms, which is one of the qualities an icon should have. But why are you not working as an artist should? That's the problem. And not only people who might not know, but also people whom I know who are respectful all over the world. Like there is such a very well-known iconographer, Father Zinon, who lives in Russia. And he's my dad's generation, more or less. And he's supposed to be like a great master. And several of his works of certain period I really admire. But at a certain moment, he would have taken this as a model, and he produced this as a result. So again, if that were a work of an artist, you wouldn't see hundreds of highlights separately. You would see a message. But he somehow didn't manage to be an artist in this particular image. He only managed to summarize lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of details and provide us with this huge mountain of details without really bringing together the story. So we have heard about 500 different people, different parts of their lives, but they don't create a Roman or any other particular book. It's not a book, it's essays which are not connected. So it's a common problem, not being an artist or not switching on your eyes somehow. I don't know why. And now we are back with the first image. And apart for, okay, I guess probably these artists were thinking that if you produce such a gilded, decorated image, it will be easier to sell. But what would you say about the colors he or she was choosing? Like, how do you think this person was choosing colors, for example? I have no idea. Maybe you have some thoughts. Because definitely for me, this is not a work of an artist. To look at this bluish green together with this powerful red, it's killing me. So why that? So what was the purpose? What was the intention putting these things together? Sorry, I'm silent. How? How do people make decisions like that?
My guess is that the artist wanted to have draw the viewer's eyes to certain areas. So they use these bolder colors.
Okay, but bolder colors everywhere. Blue is bold and red is bold as well. And the face with its orangish skin color.
Yeah, maybe he's trying to communicate too many ideas all at once.
Mhm.
With,
Okay,
you know, the bright of the gospel and the bright of the clothing and the robe and then the face, you know, there's not one area of focus. The communication is not one clear message.
mhm. So several messages in one.
Yeah.
In one email, I'm telling you like about this, and this. Okay. All right. Desire to say too much in one short phrase. Okay. Any more thoughts?
Can I speak? Can you hear
Sure.
me?
Yes, we can hear you.
So it seems to me the one on the right, backing off a little, and the general intent and communication, the one on the right is trying to be extremely literal about the actual words, perhaps, of the gospel telling of who Jesus was, so we know. So it's referring to a very literal, and by literal, I mean word-based account of who Jesus was. Whereas the one on the left is more telling us why does Jesus, what is the relationship between Jesus and the book, and why does that matter? It matters because he lived the book. Whereas the one on the right is just sort of an adding up of, you know, like an addition, a mathematical addition. You know, the red for his sacrifice, the blue for this, the book, the gospel, the hand, you know, it's like an inventory, a verbal inventory. The gold because, you know, he's king. Whereas the one on the left is at one time on the one hand much simpler, but on the other hand much more encompassing of the mystery and reality of who this person was and why he matters. It leads us to contemplate what we know from our experience of being a Christian, perhaps, and to, from that small experience, magnify, you know, how we come to know that and how we can magnify it more in ourselves, you know, in the image of knowing who he was and what he told us, and the relationship of the reality of that, the relationship between the word and his deeds. So it's more, while it's much more simple, it's actually more complex once the act of contemplation begins to unfold. I don't know if any of that is relevant to what you're asking, but
Yes, it is. No, everything is absolutely relevant what you're saying. And I very much loved what you said at the beginning, that this person was trying to interpret directly. Yes, red for the blood, the blueness for, I don't know, divinity or something like that. But my question is, if you are using a language to communicate, why don't you think of those who will listen to you?
well,
Okay.
I'd say because some people don't want to hear the difficult message.
So you have to
people,
cry
you know,
loud or what?
No, I think the message on the left is the difficult message. The message on the left is walking the way.
But it's
The
not
message on-
crying. It's not crying to you. Because the one on the
But it
right,
is-
I accept as someone is crying to me and telling me Jesus is God.
I know, but the one on the left is calling you
Okay.
to a way of life. Whereas the one on the right is sort of packaged up, you know, make the sign of the cross and you got it. signed, sealed, and delivered, as they say. You know, it's kind of, you know, package deal, order it from Amazon and you're there. Whereas the one on the left is actually calling you to a way of life that is sometimes wonderful and other times extremely difficult. It's more complex. I don't know. I'll leave it at that. I'll let other people give their views.
Okay, other people, what are your views? Allah?
You know, I was thinking about at the beginning of the lecture, I started to think about that this is like a kind of formula that we can use to understand what is artist's work and which one is not. So artist work, it is welcoming you to dialogue. So the artist is leaving the space for you to communicate with the image. If we look at the pictures that is in right side, this is no space for you. This is the artist, this is the image, and his or her perfectcy, like to be perfect, and no space for you at all. And maybe we can compare with people who are talking. This is not dialogue if you don't give the space for another person to talk about. You are talking too much, trying to explain something, and you are not giving any time or space for another person to get the answer. And this is like lecture without any questions, without anything.
Okay, so you're actually, can I try to rephrase, like what you're
Try.
saying
Yeah.
is like the one who we may consider an artist as someone who is having a dialogue with you, which happens visually.
Yeah, and this is not perfect stuff. This is a space that you need to think about. Oh, why this color is like that, and which one is. When you look at this, you see this unperfect stuff or not filled with perfection. Gold, for example, without any decoration, and it gives you a space to think about, and this is welcoming. It welcomes you to communicate with the image. I'm not perfect, I'm just person, and I see that, oh, it was made by person, not by computer, robot, or something like this. Another, when it is too perfect, a lot of perfect stuff, it looks for me that I'm not perfect, this is so perfect, maybe this is made of, I don't know, conveyor or robots or something like this. That's why it is so perfect. And it doesn't welcome me to communicate with the image.
So imperfectness is inviting for dialogue.
Yes.
Okay.
Not only a lot of stuff. This is hierarchy that you are talking about all the time, that look, which part is lighter, darker, why?
No, my main question is, why still people produce images like the one on the right? Like, why people do it?
Why people do it? Because it's modern life. Everything should be perfect, plastic, perfectly in colors, perfectly bold in colors, bright. And this is like, probably this is advertising pictures that we can see around us. They are very aggressive, and people get used to, so this is jumping in my eyes. Probably I should use these colors for this and this to be very attractive, kind of this.
Okay. Any other thoughts? Thank you.
I don't know.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any other thoughts? Kelly or Stephen? Anything? Stephen?
Well, I look at these two and I wonder, the one on the left obviously is a much older. And I wonder if you could see it when it was new and then try and make that comparison, if the colors would be brighter, if it would be more visible.
I can find a similar one for you, which would be slightly brighter. Just a second. It should be just a second. Yes. I have a folder from Vatopedi. It's a monastery on Mount Athos, where they, like, different monasteries have different collections of old artifacts, as these monasteries exist for like hundreds of years. Just a moment, I want to open. Yeah, this one will be okay. Yes, it's okay. Okay, let me switch my sharing screen to a different part. This should be functioning. Yes. So he would still have some bright colors, of course, like here, but he would still have some muted parts for not to compete with the face. And the very face would still be quite integral, not to look so terribly destructive. So it is brighter, it's in much better condition. You see the hand is almost perfect. Yes, you see almost intact highlights. So this means this color hasn't suffered. It used to be, and it was always, maybe slightly lighter, slightly brighter, but yet not much brighter. Or let's see, maybe something else on the same album. Well, they could have something bright. And let me bring forward some really bright image, like of the Mother of God, for example, this one. And yet here is this hierarchy. So the red is strong enough, and yet our eyes are moving, are always migrating towards her face and his face. They're not stuck on red. Or let's see, now well, this one is in even better condition. You see, it's blue, but it's not killing in blue. And the gold on the orange is strong, but it's married with the gold on the background. So it just is perceived as a part of background, kind of. And yet the face is the main part, is the strongest thing. So you see, it's almost intact since 12th century. I would say it's not damaged, because really this gold on top is the thing you damage first. It's the easiest thing to damage. And yet how strong it is focused, it's holding your attention. Okay, let me get back to these guys again before we stop. So it's a question of your choice. It's a question, what do you want? And I'm really surprised to see how is it that people don't feel it. Well, from the other hand, I should say it was me who wasn't really aware of the quality of the color when I started that. So it may just happen that the person who painted this icon was not introduced to art, but was introduced to iconography. This person was not introduced to different values, to different ways of image functioning and influencing you. He or she just was told, okay, this is the color, this is the way you do, just do it. So probably that happened. I don't know. Okay, I probably should finish the recorded part of our lecture for today. And next should be the 27th of May.